three Greek concepts from the Christian monastic tradition can be combined to form a profound understanding of contemplation. Prosoche can be translated as attention, nepsis as watchfulness, and hysekia as stillness. The cultivation of contemplation entails a deeper outlook that simultaneously involves a deeper insight. The Greek theoria has its roots in theia, which means both sight and goddess. Theos, meaning divine, shares the same root. Theoria was understood as a way of seeing true, where the visible is transcended into the invisible, and the invisible reveals itself in the visible. This implies a holistic synoptic vision, where the universal is condensed into the particular and singular, where the word becomes flesh. To prepare the ground for the arrival of technology, two of Aristotle's causes, or rather coinciding sympathies, the formal and the final, had to be extracted from the understanding of nature. Meaning and formative life fields were absorbed into the human being and could only be rediscovered in a projection onto a lifeless and meaningless surface. Reality as a whole came to be understood as resting on an absolute contingency, something that, as such, just as well might not have been. This view replaced an equally claustrophobic notion of reality as absolute necessity, where necessity found its ground in God's providence, which influenced the course of nature from outside nature itself. Both sides of this same coin stripped nature of its agency and freedom. The question in this context becomes, how can attention help to uncover the life of reality? Instead of relating to the world as a symphony performed before it is written, or as random cacophony, one may experience it as the spontaneous generation of harmony, like jazz. This lack of ability to experience reality from its own vitality is partly due to a collective understanding of being, one that lies outside the control of the individual. At the same time, the monastic tradition assigns each person personal responsibility to overcome their own moral spiritual blindness and to cleanse the portion of the perceptual field they have been given. The collective part of this blindness stems from a dislocation of the present. The concrete and personal is abstracted into an impersonal coordinate system, while the present is understood based on a pre-existing self-identity. Something is understood to the extent that it is identical with something already understood. Site-specific epiphanies drown before they reach the surface. In Heidegger's sense, understanding becomes fuel for technology, which in its essence frames reality, nature, as the same pure potential for energy. Personal blindness, in continuation of this, involves an inability to understand the world through participation on the world's term, rather than incorporating the always new into the reduction of understanding into the same. Douglas Christie speaks of a form of understanding conditioned by dwelling in the penumbral. The term is composed of paene, which means almost, and umbra, which means shadow. In such a state, one does not force reality into a pre-existing understanding, but remains open to the porous and ambivalent, to the boundaries that, precisely by being boundaries, also open up. The inner and the outer mutually permeate each other. Watchfulness with regard to one's inner self was a vital component of attention within the monastic tradition. Diakrisis can be translated as separation, and in a contemplative context can be understood as discerning judgment, to be attentive to the essential and to separate it from the inessential. Through contemplative immersion, one becomes able to allow the essential to reveal itself. In other words, reality has a depth that is obscured by the aforementioned moral spiritual blindness. Regarding the self, the contemplative, through training in attention, became able to judge which thoughts and impulses served the ego and obstructed deeper understanding and growth, and which led toward union with God. This union with God was simultaneously a union with the present moment, in which time as transience was compressed by eternity. Time is healed by stitching together its wounds, past and future. Through cultivating a watchfulness oriented toward one's own givenness as temporal being, eternity escapes the fragmentation that inevitably occurs when one is preoccupied with thoughts and impulses aimed at the past and the future. Thus, reality itself became present within the contemplative, just as the contemplative became present as reality. The eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me. My eye and God's eye are one eye, one vision, one knowing, one love. Through the acceptance of the moment, conditioned by the expulsion of understanding's reduction to the same, eternity is experienced as a dynamic emergence of newness, in which the contemplative can dwell in the tension between the known and the unexpected, which is the very ground of all novelty. The known is always new, and the new is always known. Through attention, the contemplative may rediscover the child's simultaneous familiarity and openness. Truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. This dynamic emergence of newness is brought forth by reality itself, and in the opening toward reality, eternity is also revealed as living, as eternal life.